Being involved in Chimurenga has helped me personally. I'm able to challenge those stereotypes or those categories.
I'm not interested in the idea of having only happy stories or only sad stories or only depicting positive, strong people. I find that none of them are satisfying representations of reality.
Or try to discuss anything with as much criticality and as much intelligence and as much rigor as you will expect any literary journal anywhere in the world.
Now, finally, to the moment we've all been waiting for, the presentation of the 2011 Principal Award. May I please invite to the stage once again His Royal Highness Prince Constantine.
In 2011, one of the world's most prestigious global arts and culture awards was given to a small and relatively unknown magazine run from Cape Town, South Africa.
11 awards, 11 outstanding personalities and organizations. Today, however, the biggest praise goes to Ntone of Chimurenga as winner of the Prince Claus Award.
Ntone's path has been a long and unusual one.
He is a writer and a DJ who attended University of Lagos but was educated by a Nigerian musician and radical thinker Fela Kuti. Chimurenga means struggle for liberation in Zimbabwe's Shona language. It's an important magazine about culture, music and politics. And it's also an innovative Pan-African cultural platform based in South Africa.
I was born in Cameroon. I was born in Douala and I grew up there. My father worked as an electrician, so whatever he was sent to work would go with him. So I got to know the country quite well.
Chimurenga offers fresh interpretations, analysis, poetry, experimental texts and visual materials by leading creative thinkers and radical practitioners in a multiplicity of disciplines from Africa and elsewhere.
After high school, I went to the University of Yaoundé to study law. It was the thing that people couldn't quite fit in the system would end up doing. The year that I was at the University of Yaoundé, I spent most of the time figuring out how to get out of there.
Ntone then went to study in Nigeria. It was here that he became inspired by the philosophy and music of radical activist Fela Kuti, an education which would influence his life's work much more than any formal training.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is not according to us.
Students riots, the school year is broken all the time. I felt like this was a sort of dead end. Not my personal life, but certainly my schooling life wasn't going anywhere. I think the main thing for me, yeah, the text needs to be shorter, but the main thing for me is that you get one total image. You can scroll on that image, but you have to have the impression it's one kind of camera. I decided I'm going to go to South Africa. it seems to me at that point, not only the place everyone is talking about, but the place that seems in movement.
Ntone decided to settle in Cape Town at the southern tip of the African continent. At first, he worked as a journalist for local newspapers. He soon became dissatisfied with the cliches and stereotypes about life in Africa. Almost on a whim, he decided with some friends to see what would happen if they brought out their own magazine, one that would give African writers a space to explore their own struggles on their own terms.
Started Chimurenga in 2002. It was a once-off project. We sold every single copy at the Cape Town Jazz Festival out of a backpack. And people started, they imagined it as a magazine because it looked like one, as opposed to, the finished book, all just perception. And so they started emailing me asking, where's the next edition coming up? Chimurenga means struggle. The word comes from Murenga. The myth says that he was one of the first to rebel against colonization. And so the idea of a struggle against colonization is named after him. So in the spirit of Murenga, literally Chimurenga. The idea was to create an intellectual and artistic platform in print that will carry the same spirit.
What first impressed me was just the cover itself. It's black and it's got this kind of charcoal painting. The word Chimurenga stood out. Looking at the text as well, I was like, okay, this is refreshing.
That image of Peter Tosh on the cover with his M16 shaped gun, the strength of that image, the power of that image, for me it was like, okay, this does not speak to everyone, but those who have a sense of this history will get this. That stark black, the red masthead, the title Chimurenga put up, all of that to signify in the bookshop or in wherever you found this thing, to say we're not interested in attracting you. Like we don't want to be Elle magazine cover. The idea behind Chimurenga was that as well as we will interrogate social issues and political issues and aesthetic issues, we will do so we will try to do it in a manner that doesn't say, this is an African point of view, which will reinforce again that notion that Africans think differently from anyone else. We just wanted to create a platform that is rooted here, which will make it African by the fact of its rootedness here. But that discusses, or try to discuss anything with as much criticality and as much intelligence and as much rigor as you will expect any literary journal anywhere in the world.
Very soon, Chimurenga caught the attention of a large variety of curious readers and writers from across the continent.
A journal like Chimurenga is very important for a community of writers to sort of clump around, to find like-minded people who think the same, to give them an avenue for experimentation. Because each magazine has such a rich sort of vein, not just in terms of the content, but also the presentation, the design, the type of writing. I think anyone who's interested in sort of experimental culture, avant-garde culture, will always be interested in Chimurenga. But it's from young people to old people, it's indigenous African people to European tourists, it's academics, it's poets, it's musicians. It's really, I think because it's such a rich magazine, it really draws a lot of interest from a lot of different people.
We did, for instance, this issue called Conversations with Poets Who Refuse to Speak, to investigate the role of silence in this kind of hyper-mediatized environment where, you know, everything must be said. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, you know, every single thought. Everything is visible and everything is public. We started then looking at science fiction as a kind of this imagining of another world, you know, something that's out there, as a way of speaking of our own world. You know, like you do not have a language that is useful for you here. All the terms are so sterilized and, you know, everything is dead. You say revolution and people think Coca-Cola, because that's the closest affiliation today. So in a way, you almost kind of have to invent this other universe to make statement about the place you live in. Science fiction, essentially. Yeah, sorry. Stick that.
It encompasses almost everything that I and many others are interested in. This whole idea of words and images and film and music that just make a very, very exciting thing altogether. 6 months after the issue on Nigerians, I traveled to Cape Town to meet Ntone, spent a weekend with him, looked at Chimurenga, just really liked what I saw. It was just, it was instant love, and everything was perfectly understandable. Most of us are used to hearing what we like to hear and what we easily understand. We're not really used to trying very hard. And what I like about it very much is that it refuses to be easy.
Ntone decided to house Chimurenga in the Pan-African market in central Cape Town. This is a place where people gather from all over Africa to make and sell their art.
When I decided to start Chimurenga, it felt like the market was a natural home. Because it really felt like once you walked through the door of the Pan-African market, you were in a totally different country. People spoke different languages, they ate different food, they just hung out very differently. There were Mozambicans and South Africans and Zimbabweans, Ghanaians, Cameroonians, Senegalese, from many of the countries below the Sahara were represented in that space. It's very strange. I guess it's the experience of being in this country that just encouraged this solidarity. And it wasn't really forceful solidarity. We never tried to start an association. We never formalized anything. It's just the way that we were together.
Within a city known for its divisions, Chimurenga and the market provide a space in which many people, not only from across the continent, but also from Cape Town, manage to feel at home.
A lot of Cape Townians, just by my appearance, don't assume that I'm from Cape Town. So I'm anywhere from Indian to Pakistani to, what is the other one, Turkish, Brazilian, Cuban, you know, am I a Latino from the States? Going outside there, it's having to deal with these identities, these imposed identities. But coming back into these doors, I'm not seen, accepted and respected for who I am with it. Chimurenga is that free space where I can be Graeme.
I'm normally put in the black female, young female box in South Africa. And being involved in Chimurenga has helped me personally in a sense that I can now challenge, I'm able to challenge those stereotypes or those categories or peggings that I'm assigned to. For me, the Chimurenga philosophy is about being willing to unlearn and being willing to dream.
Many foreign nationals feel threatened and insecure in South Africa, yet the traders in the Pan-African market, some of whom have fled difficult circumstances elsewhere on the continent, have also found a home in the space around Chimurenga.
This artwork is called African Original Batik. I learned it in my country, Uganda. I was a teacher in Kenya. That time we were in exile because we have a cruel president who was called Idi Amin Dada, who used to kill people. I like art. It helps me, my mind, to cool down.
Shit.
Where did you post? Did you post it on?
No, he said,
email it?
he just emailed it to me, but it came from someone from the city, and this is on top of all the emails. We need to start a movement. Shit.
At the end of his working day at the Chimurenga office, Ntone goes to a place called Tagores in another part of town. It is both where he lives and DJs from. Like many people coming from across the continent, Ntone now calls Cape Town his home.
Going to the base, the other base. Of course, the other home. Well, it's one of them. I built a family here. I had 3 children who were born in this city over the past nearly 18 years. So there's also a blood relation. There's this kind of dislocation thing that, you know, migrants are just naturally drawn to. It's the first thing you want to do is create a sense of home, you know, if you're away from it. So here we are. This is the other home.
Ntone comes home to his own jazz club, as well as the radio station run by Chimurenga. Musicians come from all over Africa to perform in his club, and their music is broadcast live through the radio station.
There's the Pan-African Space Station, which is partly online, which is also physical. We have a space here, which also occupies other spaces in the city. Yeah, man. So this is the past studio.
Ntone's colleague, Anthony Sloan, feeds the live music into a computer network from where it is broadcast all across the city.
Neo and I do the programming for the stage, which is the core programming for the radio. So about 80% to 90% of the content of the radio is stuff that we've produced ourselves. Anthony looks at the archive, everything that we've recorded, and he aligns it into a sort of playlisting system.
Chimurenga supports a host of talented musicians who are developing cutting-edge sounds within African...
Respected for who I am with it. Chimurenga is that free space where I can be Graeme.
I'm normally put in the black young female box in South Africa. And being involved in Chimurenga has helped me personally in a sense that I can now I'm able to challenge those stereotypes or those categories or peggings that I'm assigned to. For me, the Chimurenga philosophy is about being willing to unlearn and being willing to dream.
Many foreign nationals feel threatened and insecure in South Africa. Yet the traders in the Pan-African market, some of whom have fled difficult circumstances elsewhere on the continent, have also found a home in the space around Chimurenga.
This artwork is called African Original Batik. I learned it in my country, Uganda. I was a teacher in Kenya. That time we were in exile because we have a cruel president who was called Idi Amin Dada, who used to kill people. I like art. It helps me, my mind, to cool down.
Shit.
Where did you post? Did you post it on?
No, he said,
did you email it to you?
he just emailed it to me, but it came from someone from the city, and this is on top of all the emails. We need to start a movement. Shit.
At the end of his working day at the Chimurenga office, Ntone goes to a place called Tagores in another part of town. It is both where he lives and DJs from. Like many people coming from across the continent, Ntone now calls Cape Town his home.
Going to the base, the other base. Of course. The other home. Well, it's one of them. I built a family here. I had 3 children who were born in this city over the past nearly 18 years. So there's also a blood relation. There's this kind of dislocation thing that, you know, migrants are just naturally drawn to. It's the first thing you want to do is create a sense of home, you know, if you're away from it. So here we are. This is the other home.
Ntone comes home to his own jazz club, as well as the radio station run by Chimurenga. Musicians come from all over Africa to perform in his club, and their music is broadcast live through the radio station.
There's the Pan-African Space Station, which is partly online, which is also physical. We have a space here, which also occupies other spaces in the city. Yeah, man. So this is the past studio.
Ntone's colleague, Anthony Sloan, feeds the live music into a computer network from where it is broadcast all across the city.
Neil and I do the programming for the stage, which is the core programming for the radio. So about 80% to 90% of the content of the radio is stuff that we produce ourselves. Anthony looks at the archive, everything that we've recorded, and he aligns it into a sort of playlisting system.
Chimurenga supports a host of talented musicians who are developing cutting-edge sounds within African music. Ntone's closest friend and musical collaborator is the composer Muyanga. Both see music as a way of connecting with like-minded people, and their work reveals the variety and complexity of African music.
Oh, I was trying to call you.
You want shopping?
The protest that I'm looking at when I make music and when I engage in an intervention that is about music is my struggle is for the imagination. I don't know whether it's good or not.
Oh man! Oh wow!
They've got nice stuff there, man.
Wow!
Very nice shit.
Before we put your record on, there's something I want you to hear, man.
And at some point it's like, boom, they put the bass. Every rhythm in the music, like broken beat, you do it with your feet. So when you go, it's like, you're like, the skies, man. Oh, man.
One of the ways in which Ntone builds the Chimurenga community is through DJing. He does this regularly at Tagores. In 2008, South Africa was rocked by a wave of violence against foreign nationals. According to reports, 62 people lost their lives and many more were displaced.
One day I was coming from the church. Men came to me. I was coming from down and they are coming from up. So they found me in a dark place. They stood around me. They asked me, now give us whatever you have. I kept quiet because if I could start speaking, they could know that I'm a foreigner.
I didn't feel like there was any serious analysis of the xenophobic attack or even of xenophobia. It's really attacking a love, or if not a loved one, at least a close one. It's this kind of what I would call familiar order, you know. It took us 3 years to find a way to deal with the event.
Moving away from their usual magazine format, Chimurenga brought out a 300-page newspaper called The Chronic. It provided an entirely different perspective on the xenophobic attacks. Rather than blaming wrongdoers, The Chronic explored the everyday realities of both perpetrators and survivors, and to show how the events instead formed part of a greater social and political global reality.
And the idea of The Chronic was not to speak about the xenophobic attack, but to speak about life in moments of joy and exchange and love, and in moments of confrontations and suspicion, just like it happens every day, just to create a context that makes this kind of violence possible.
I'm not interested in the idea of having only happy stories or only sad stories or only depicting positive, strong people, or only depicting the very worst things that happen in a place. I find that none of them are satisfying representations of reality. I am interested in the continuance and the currency of human existence, and it's far more complex than a single story in any sense whatsoever.
The launch of The Chronic was preceded by a provocative poster campaign all over the major cities in South Africa. Ntone also wanted The Chronic to reach a wider audience. It was sold in Somali-owned shops around the city, some of which had themselves been the target of xenophobic violence.
I'm running the store, grocery store, which is a vape supermarket. It's in Observatory. I think it's raising the issue of the racial issue and the issue of the foreigners, particularly and generally in South Africa, how they suffer and what they do, and the issue of the is a hard dealing issue. So for that reason we start selling this magazine.
It was the Chronic that led to international recognition for Chimurenga.
After producing the Chronic, I felt like we were trying to move in another direction, to a less exclusive, less journal, less create more bridges, you know, come out of bookshop, be more in the street and this kind of thing, without diluting the content, without dumbing down. I felt like we'd develop our language sufficiently to be present in mainstream platforms. And while we were doing this, we received this prize, so it felt like really an acknowledgement of the previous work we've done. One of my colleagues suggested that, by the way, there is an organization based in the Netherlands that function on slightly different terms of engagement with their partners, and that we should perhaps apply to the Prince Class Fund. This was in 2004. Our application was successful, and they did not even ask how many children we were going to save from malnutrition. They just sent us the money. So I am not alone. I carry the greetings and thanks of a large family of thinkers, artists, activists, a family we call Chimurenga people.
In the space of 10 years, Ntone and his colleagues have had a significant impact on cultural life in Cape Town and beyond. Apart from any music and art events already in the pipeline, Ntone now also plans to launch a version of the magazine in Cameroon. The world has been opened for the Chimurenga way of life.